Yo.
Hello, there we are. Hello.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing, Callum?
I'm very well. I've just finished up some animation just now. Lost track of time a little bit, not gonna lie.
Cool. Well, we are live. So welcome everyone to the stream. It's 9 o'clock. It's Thursday, 30th of April, last day of the month. And we are joined by Callum from Car Creative. He's going to give us some UI loving. Right, Callum?
I'll try my best.
We actually haven't got a clue what we're going to do right now, but...
yeah, we're playing it by ear a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Let's play it by ear. So, can you see the stream right now? Or would you like me to share my screen?
Hey, if you could share your screen, that would be just fine.
Of course. Here we go.
We have a history of trying to watch Twitch streams at the same time, and there's always a lag in my experience.
Be a bit, yeah, exactly. Be a bit behind. So, have you seen where are you up to with the game? How much have you seen so far?
Well, I've only seen a few snapshots, to be honest.
Okay. So, let me share this so you've got sound, so you can actually hear what's going on.
Brilliant.
So, screen, sure.
Oh, that's Sean joined the chat as well.
Oh, cool.
Hello, I'm here.
Hi, Sean.
Our sound designer.
Hello.
Sean, sound design, musician, and generally very multi-talented individual. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Yeah, so I was just going to do a quick rundown of what we've got at the moment. So bring you guys up to speed. Are you? Can you see the share, Sean?
Yeah, I'm watching the stream as well.
Sweet, cool. Okay, so I'll start here because well, this is where you start. Actually, you know what? Okay, I've got none of the narrative turned on at the moment, so you won't hear any voices, but that's okay. So the way the game is built up, we're building a narrative system first, and then we're going to build on the sort of gaming elements on top of it. So the narrative elements are the navigation, inventory, interaction with objects around you, interaction with characters. So at the moment, we've just replaced everything that we might have in the game with crappy buttons, right? Which you can see. And so if we are in the living area, we've got exits, and an exit has an exit audio. So the audio you make when you leave the exit, or the audio that another character will make as they leave towards a location, right? So if I go to the lift, we'll get footsteps leaving the location, and then we'll get a lift door as we arrive at the location, and it will transition from that background noise you can hear at the moment into lift music. So let's just do that.
So the exit sounds will be specific to the context. It's not going to be like generic footsteps or something like that.
You can have whatever you want. We can have different audio for every single transition, every single exit to different places. You can tailor it to the type of floor you want, whatever you want. Every location can have its own... every exit within a location has its own transition in and out audio. And every location has its own background audio. It also has its own room size and sort of sound qualities of that room. So this is quite confined at the moment. I'm just going to turn off the music here. So in this lift, we have two objects, which are buttons, and they will take us to other lift locations. So this will take us up to floor 2. So the exit audio was the leaving audio. There was the sound of the lift whirring, and the arrival audio was the sound of the ding and the doors opening. Right. So if I exit into the R&D labs, so all we've got really here is a background audio of an office, and we've got narration as well. You can't hear at the moment. But when you first enter a location, you can have a narrative play, and then it will never play again. It'll get logged. We've got a logging system, and at this point, this is actually a test to see if we could create a location where, as part of the puzzle, you won't be able to go back down. So it won't go back into the lift now. We'll actually have to kill it. And you know what I'll do is I'll just turn on, before I start sharing again, I'll just turn on the narrative. There we go. I
woke up. My mouth was dry.
Sharing.
Okay, I left the heating on.
And here we go. So that's basically locations and exits. Then we've got characters. I think we might do a little rejig on this. So we bought a third-party piece of code that allows us to, so if we go to the balcony here, so we've got Graham. So this is kind of like it's basically a third-party software called Dialogue Designer that lets us design dialogues, and we've implemented that into the game. Only trouble is, it's just a dialogue, right? There's no audio, and we kind of want to have narration and various things, so we might redo this from scratch and ditch it. But the good thing about it is that you can have the player saying what he wants. You can have options in your dialogue. You can change. You can make code changes within the game based on the choices that are made, and so on. So great spelling there now. And objects, you can do anything. So we can have an unlimited number of verbs associated with an object. I've only got one verb on all these, so we could turn the TV on.
Good
We've got the news playing at the moment.
News.
So this is the first bit of audio we got from Steph, which is just, she's got 4 of her friends to do news for 3.5 minutes. So they're just literally talking about the issues on Europa and Earth, and I think there's loads. It's pretty good actually if you listen to the whole thing. But I'm going to stop that right now. And then you can interact with various things. Unfortunately,
of my mom.
It's got
She's
me.
8 months pregnant with me.
It's just because there's no one else. No one else is gonna read these out yet.
8 months pregnant with me.
We need a voice actor to do the guy in this. So that's the first bit. So we've got object interaction, locations, and characters. One of the things that we've thought about is that we're going to need time. So we're going to have real time, and we're going to have a clock in the corner that shows Earth time and potentially some kind of Europa or Jupiter time in the other corner. And they're based on the time that you're on, based on that time, characters in the game will have schedules. So they'll move around the facility because we're based in a facility. There's a ton of backstory and maps and creation that Steph's been working on that we need to sort of flesh out. So that's number one. Number two is that we're going to have a PDA. Oh, thank you very much. Coffee. The coffee hand has just arrived. We're going to have a PDA. The PDA will be kind of like the interface for looking at the audio logs. So looking at like the previous conversations. Oh, we've got a cutscene interface system as well. So we can play our own cutscenes whenever we want. So we've got a title fade in. We've got a fade to white. We've got image fade ins. We've got narrative automation. We've got sound effects players. We've got
time, Jove.
It's just me again, unfortunately.
I don't want to see him.
You get the idea.
You don't need to keep apologising for that, man. You've got a great voice.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to do the girl talking to a 15-year-old.
You know that's not true. He's doing it for us. All of us.
I can hear you've pitched it up as well.
Anyway,
I have, yeah.
There's not much time. Your dad wants to see you.
So, the idea at the moment with the game is that it's the tutorial is based 20 years in the past with a 15-year-old you, and you go and you have to find your dad, and it kind of introduces you to the facility on Europa, and your dad's going back to Earth, and you're not going to see him for like 10 years, so you're angry, and so you go and find your dad, and then you got a choice to say goodbye to your dad or just like tell him to fuck off. Anyway, either way, he's going to die on the way back to Earth. So anyway, 20 years later.
Man. Oh man, I'm never going to play this game now that you've told me.
Well, you won't know the reasons, right? So 20 years later, you wake up and the game starts, right? and you've already done. You've familiarized yourself with the facility in the tutorial.
Right. Okay.
So now, 20 years later, you're grown up. There are some of the original cast still from the tutorial around.
Mhm.
The place is a bit run down, and it starts off with your PDA malfunctioning, and you're getting this message, this broadcast from your dad, but you can't quite get the message, and you're like, "What the hell is going on?" And it kind of starts there. Yeah, I mean, don't know whether we want to know the spoilers. We've covered them all in the episodes anyway. But the point being that we need to make a user interface that allows all this to be a bit more slick, because at the moment it ain't slick at all, right?
Yeah. It's that you're using a lot of real estate for, even stuff like making them a little bit more.
Don't worry about all this. This is just me. This is like consider this like a debug screen.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's all this is. It allows me to build the framework for it. So forget this. Ditch it from your mind. Yeah.
I'll block it out with a big piece of paper over my screen.
Block it out. Yep. I'm gonna share my screen. Hold on. Screen. There we go. So I was actually started doing a little bit of research on games with great UI, like for example, the Pip-Boy. So, I mean, I'm not saying that the whole game should be driven by a
wrist-mounted
PDA
device. Yeah.
But it could play a big part in it.
It's familiar if you're
way to kind of represent stuff like that.
Yeah.
The only thing is, obviously, you're never going to be walking around in 2D or 3D. The whole point of this is it's an audio-based adventure, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is absolutely no. Well, maybe there will be a bit. Maybe there could be like. Maybe we could keep it really simple and just have a dude walking around a map, and maybe you're. I don't know. I don't know. Actually, it doesn't matter. Let's not make any assumptions here. But what we don't want to do is end up spending 2 years creating assets for a game and building a massive team to develop loads of graphics.
Yeah.
If you've ever had to do like a background screen for a single game, now imagine you've got to do that for 50 locations, and it's a lot to do. So
it is.
So this is quite interesting because you've just got like here's a game that's just basically completely based on it's got, I don't know if you've played it, have you? Prosperous Universe, browser-based MMO.
Oh
No.
No, me neither. Sounds quite cool, actually. Let's have a look. Let's just go play this instead. An online simulation game. So an MMO, real economies, real ramifications, civilization building. Cool. Sounds awesome. I love that. And look at it. It's all done through just a UI. I love it.
It sounds like the football manager of Star Citizen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that. That's so cool. Play now. All right, might try that later on. What else did I find? I found Steampunk. What's this? Steampunk Origin? Ever heard of that?
No.
Seems to be completely UI based. Very cutesy. Of course, you get all these sort of games, right? Which have kind of facilitate the narrative. This might be one way to go. Because you only need to draw pictures of the characters. So when
what you're thinking is maybe, so what we've seen so far is like you're going from a still screen to still screen, but that's maybe not what you're actually.
Oh yeah, forget that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, right.
Yeah, it could be anything we want really. But the main thing is we're trying to reduce the number of assets that are required. So we're trying to do it in a resource efficient way. I was thinking as well, we could use a shader, for example, and we could just fill the screen with, like, let's say you're at the lift, for example. Throw that lift image at a shader that just kind of warps it and turns it into this kind of murky background. So you get some kind of idea where you are, but it's all about the interface. It's not so much, it's just giving you an idea of where you are. But it's not trying, it's more about your imagination. And less about conveying every image that we need to see.
Right.
If we want to have characters, I suppose that's not too bad, because then you've just, there's only so many characters in the game. And it facilitates straight away dialogue system.
Perhaps the protagonist can be blind, and then we just have nothing but a black screen and some UI. That was a joke, by the way. Please don't run with that.
I've already suggested it, so joke or not. I actually suggested much worse, that the protagonist was not only blind but deaf as well, and needed a little robot to tell him what to do. And this robot has a neural connection to you, where you get this little interface in your head, and then you just basically you travel around. But we could still do something like that potentially.
If you look at the game Orwell.
What's it called?
Orwell.
Orwell.
That is quite a nice looking game, and that's mostly UI. There's some photographs of people and stuff. And there's one sort of 3D cutscene at the start of the game, but very slick looking, very, very good game.
Oh, nice! Yeah,
draw inspiration from.
Yeah, well, that's definitely the sort of angle to look at. 100%. Pretty cool. And we could definitely
that is actually pretty cool. Yeah,
we could definitely do stuff like this. We were talking about, like, for example, even with just the rubbish thing that I've got at the moment. If I started up again, having a user interface of the PDA when you need to interact with it, having a key code system when you need to interact with the key code system, like replacing the interface or having elements of interface that come in. But that's really cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how that works. Are you? I see. Right. You're essentially sort of researching someone. Is that right? Keeping an eye on people.
I remember, it's it's based in a sort of Orwellian type society, where a bomb went off somewhere, and you're trying to find out who did it. So you basically get suspects, and you can access all their social media and scour through that, looking for what groups they might belong to and stuff like that, to figure out if they planted the bomb.
Yeah.
You can also, the main part of the game is choosing whether to give that information or not to the government, because there's stuff you can withhold.
Yeah.
Because when I first played it, I didn't really realize what I was doing. I just gave everything, and you get like the bad ending if you do that. So you have to kind of pick and choose. It's kind of up to you and your conscience.
What's the bad ending? Do you get locked away for life by the government?
I think someone ends up like shooting themselves or something.
Right. Okay. Damn. Well, yeah, that's a really good spot there, Sean. I really like that. Stick that on the list as potential influence. I like the idea that you're. If I just actually start writing some notes here. Orwell game. So UI inspiration. I like the idea that the UI plays a strong part in the game, rather than the game just kind of needing a UI.
One of the problems is that in that game you're just meant to be a guy sitting at a computer the whole time.
Exactly.
Whereas in this game we'll be walking about. So.
Yep. Totally. Back in the day, and this is like a bit of a problem for me, obviously, because I'm used to this stuff. You youngsters aren't so much. Games didn't have 2D, 3D graphics like that. They would have like, see, like Bard's. You see the Bard's Tale, right? The original.
Yeah.
I've never seen the original Bard's Tale. No.
Man, I was hooked for many, many months. There you go. This original Bard's Tale.
Yeah.
My word.
Oh yeah. Look at that. God, it even had a little bit of kind of moving around maps, which is pretty clever. It was pretty good. But I don't think we need that, because it didn't have like state-of-the-art audio. The whole point here is that we're gonna. I mean, maybe we could have stuff like that. We'd have some kind of map or something.
I think.
So, I've got two approaches here. I've got stylized, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you take the approach that is like a novel, right? Because a lot of this is narrated. So you could have some kind of book. When you change location, it flips the page and stuff. So you could make it into create some kind of stylized approach to it.
Can I just ask a question about the narrative?
Yeah, sure.
Now, I don't know if you've already decided on this stuff, but did the stuff already happen? Like, are we looking at it from the future?
From the future.
You know, like, are we looking back on events that have already happened and stuff like that? Because if not, then I think things like, you know, books and audio recordings and stuff like that, it doesn't really lend itself to the game narrative, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I suppose like more and more is getting written as we speak.
Right.
So obviously making a decision on how it should work is important at this point. But there's quite a lot written.
These games that use like these UIs or like text adventures and stuff like that. Like if we want to go full text adventure, that might not be very immersive for people that play games today.
Yeah.
And if we go for something like Orwell, that person's just sitting at their computer.
Yeah.
So because I'm looking at the script for the tutorial right now, and it is based on moving about and
absolutely
going to areas. So it's like how do you show where you are in an immersive way?
That tells me that we need, like, I don't think there's any real way about it. We need assets that show locations. Other than that, we can have, like, there needs to be a reason that
I've got assets that show location.
Right. Yeah.
It's an image.
But and that's fine as long as we're okay with developing 50 odd location assets.
Yeah.
Unless we don't show that, and then there needs to be a reason that that the player is unable to see the locations.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I like the thought of having someone at a terminal. Maybe actually the whole game is you helping someone. Like you're playing from the perspective. Maybe we've got to change the whole perspective of the narrative and talk about it from the perspective of someone at a terminal. And so now you're sort of tracking where they are within the Europa station, and they've got an earpiece in, so you're hearing the audio from them.
Yeah, and you'll have some sort of readout for like where they are on a map or something.
Yeah, and so the navigation is all like, okay, go through this, go there, go over here. All right, go talk to them. Okay. Could be. I mean, you could actually, all you need is one cutscene at the beginning, and you could set that scene. And then the UI is just purely based on you helping that person navigate and telling them what to do. And they're a complete numbnut. Like, literally, they cannot think for themselves. They got to do everything you say. But
perhaps it's...
this is guilt, not nice.
I'm just thinking there was a game that I watched a Let's Play of it not too long ago. The premise is there's a base on the moon that's powering Earth after like some sort of... I don't know if this is ringing any bells for you guys, but the Earth runs out of power and they need to set up some sort of a power relay on the moon. And then that eventually goes offline and you're sent to like investigate what happened there.
Mm-hmm. It's not ringing any bells.
Right. Well, anyway, what I was getting at was you're finding pieces of information that were left behind on this station.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps, you instead of telling a person you need to go through here, you've got some sort of advanced robot drone or something that's retrieving information that's been left in this station or something, and you're trying to piece together. Maybe you could perhaps...
this is a completely different game you're talking about here.
Well, I mean...
you've got plenty of scope for doing something like that. And I mean, one of the purposes of the engine is that you could knock out games like crazy. But they're all going to have they're all going to have that same sort of user interface. Otherwise, you've got to redesign the whole user interface. I think the more specific we make this, the more special it gets, but the less usable it becomes, unless you just create prequel after. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
There's a considerable amount of writing being done. So I think probably for this particular one, it needs to revolve around what's already been done.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
I'll give you a quick rundown of what we've got at the moment. We've got levels. We've got a training level. And we've got, I mean, in terms of the stuff and the purpose of the people, I don't know if this is the right one I'm looking at here, to be honest. No, I think that's old. Where is it? Design docs. Oh. Concepts. Visual rep. Object mapping. Yeah, I think this is the one.
I didn't realize it was being written by Stephanie Mark. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right. I thought you were working on it, but
oh god no. So you can see we've got like a 5th floor here, and you've got the 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, 1st floor, and trying to go. So each of these has like exits and connections and so on. So
yeah.
all these things are connected together. Then you've got a puzzle tree that basically maps out how and what you've got to do at each location or to move on and so on. So that's coming on quite well. But again, it does kind of connect us to the question of the narrative. And so the narrative, we go back to, let's look at casting, for example. Role specs, user port, AI interface, game setting. Geez, where's the tutorial? I'm just going to type in tutorial. Blimey. That's not what I'm looking for. Where is it? You've got a copy, haven't you, Neil? Callum?
Me? No, I'm afraid not. No.
I've
only been shown things.
Role specs, casting. Wasn't there a casting folder or something? I mean, another one. I don't know. Steph's managing all the sort of narrative stuff, so it's probably somewhere. But anyway, there's tons of it. Honest. There's loads.
Okay. No, right. So what I was saying about this whole, controlling a robot thing is that we know why we're not being shown environments there, because we know we're a guy, who's just controlling a robot who just like clearly doesn't have a camera or anything. But if we're controlling a person, then I think it becomes a little bit less interesting of a game, because then we're thinking, oh, I wish I was that person who could see things, see things. I think you need to be mindful of the questions a player's going to ask, like, why am I not being shown this? And did they just make the decision to not show it just because?
If you play a text adventure, do you go, oh, why aren't they showing me?
Well, no, because
would be my response.
Back then, that was the standard. But these days,
there's tons of text adventures, mate. There's absolutely loads. Do you want me to show you? I mean, look at that one. Hey.
Callum's the type of person that wouldn't play that sort of thing, though. And I probably wouldn't play something like that either these days.
These
I think
are massively popular in Japan, like these sort of things, aren't they?
Yeah, but
well, that's kind
this
of
is sort of a bad example, because we're using visuals to guide the narrative. It's not just a text adventure; it's a see what's happening based on your choices adventure.
Yeah, the whole point is that it isn't a text adventure; it's actually a point-and-click adventure game.
Right.
Yeah, a bit like your Monkey Islands and so on. But
yeah.
rather than using 2D graphics and a little voice, we're trying to create an audio-based universe that you hear and interact with, rather than typing or clicking.
Yeah.
Right. I have a couple more. In that case, I do have a couple more games to look at for inspiration. There's one called A Blind Legend, which is actually made for blind people.
Yeah, I remember that.
Absolutely no graphics at all.
Yeah, I remember when that came out. I heard a lot about it.
And there's also, what's it called? Unheard, which is a game where it's been a while since I played it, but it gives you like a top-down view of a building, and you can I think you can zip from camera to camera, or it's like an audio device, and you listen to people in the room. And
What's it called?
Unheard.
Unheard.
Kind of have to listen to people in the room and the direction sounds coming from, and find clues to who committed a crime. Or
Cool.
whatever.
See, I like this. That's definitely something. I like this angle of potentially going for like some kind of system of like, okay, you can see where they are, or at least you can see the location they're in within a facility.
Yeah.
And it could be quite simple to do just a basic sort of top-down view of the rooms you're in, things like that.
Yeah, totally. It's much more interesting. Callum, you just want to just create a new game. Honestly,
No,
Cal,
just
every time we talk about editing, you come away and say, you know what? Actually, let's go for some 3D. Let's have
3D's where
can we do this
lies,
in
man,
VR,
but-
please? No.
Is that an option?
Maybe
No.
the next
So
one. I'm trying to create something and then move on to the next project. Yeah. So
I am mindful that if you're creating a UI, you need to commit to why they're going to be interacting with this environment, with why the UI looks like that, what you're presenting, what you're not presenting, stuff like that. Because if you just say, I need a UI, but I don't know what the game's going to be like, that's impossible.
Have you played any of the what they're called Inkle games?
Inkle games?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I've played Heaven's Vault.
Yeah.
And 80 Days. I've played 80 Days as well.
Okay.
Just to show that Sean has played every game.
But you don't.
I've played Sorcery.
Maybe you have. But again, so these are very UI-driven games because they're text adventures, effectively, right?
Yeah. Well, Heaven's Vault isn't, but yeah.
Yeah, Heaven's Vault is quite a little bit more advanced, right?
I don't know. They're the same devs.
But so the thing is, it's all driven by the Inkle engine, which is a dialogue creation engine, which is what I was thinking of actually using. But look, this is the sort of interface you're playing with here.
Yeah.
At no point do you go, you know what? God's sake, why can't I see it?
No, but in this case they are showing, but like I'm just basing it off the. I'm just basing it off.
You don't have to think, you know what? I'm in orbit around a planet in a satellite, or you can take it from a different perspective of. You can take a step, away from whether it's believable or not, or whether it has to comply with the logic of your eyes. You see what I mean?
I think the user in question would look at the game first before deciding to play it, and they'd know what they're getting into. They're not going to start playing the game and think, "Oh,
yeah." But I don't think you guys were let's not try and make a game that we're going to try and sell here.
Yeah,
that is not the purpose of the game. This is just a bit.
Yeah,
this is just helping me learn Godot. And we're having a bit of fun on the way. That's basically it. But yeah, so this has got a lot more. This is more like a sort of overhead RPG type of thing, right?
Which one's this?
Sorcery.
Right. Almost looks like a board game.
You've got like a map. That's cool. Like that. Steve Jackson as well, eh? Blimey.
I have no idea who that is.
You don't know who Steve Jackson is?
And no.
Damn. And look at this one. That's interesting.
If it's by these Inkle guys, I'll probably give it a go. Or do they just make the systems that they use in these games?
No, I think they have to, because it's Inkle Studios. So yeah, they use their own system to create the games. Loads of people use their systems, though. So that's
okay.
That's pretty cool, eh? I mean, we could do something like this, but again, this would require a hell of a lot more development.
Yeah.
It's very, very intensive. I'd rather, if we're going to use graphics, I'd rather use some sort of either very simple or procedural. like let's think super simplistic stylized stuff.
Mm.
I mean, I started off looking at the Game Boy stuff, right? Making it kind of Game Boy-ish.
It's 8-bit.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But I'm kind of liking that sort of cross between Orwell and the other one we were looking at, Unheard.
Mm.
I'm going to just put that in. And not so much Silver Case. That's Pish, by the way. I don't know if you ever played it, but I
What,
tried.
Silver Case?
No, A Blind Legend.
Oh, Blind Legend. Yeah, I've tried it and it wasn't great.
just didn't work at all. It was just like, oh God, it's just frustrating. Just bumping into things and it going, ugh. I was just like, oh my God, really? And I got to walk around the room to play this.
I mean, the game is 2 kind of different sections where you have to follow your daughter's voice and then you fight things.
Yeah.
By listening to what direction they're in and then trying to slash in that direction with your mouse.
I spent ages at the beginning just
if you're
listening to that
blind
girl
and you're a
talking.
gamer, you'll probably take anything.
Yeah, well, and that's something I would have liked to do with this game, is to make it accessible. If you look at the original concept, which was, well, I don't know if you've seen it. You've seen it already, haven't you, Callum?
Are you talking about the project from years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, Spodio. Yeah.
Where did I put that picture? Man, it's been on my desktop for donkeys, and then suddenly it's disappeared.
The hazards of spring cleaning.
Yeah, totally. Where would I have put it? Hang on. You know what? Doesn't matter. We're getting away from that. So I like this. This is cool. What's that called? That's Unheard? Is it still?
Unheard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I also like this. I like the sort of, so this, when I say procedural, I mean this sort of thing, which is more mathematical. Oops. That's pretty cool. So, okay. So can we go for then the concept of, obviously got to get this past Steph, but that you are advising a player from a terminal.
Sure, we can throw that idea around.
Yeah.
Can that work? Is it the only way to do it?
It can absolutely work.
So
I don't think it's the only way, though.
You'd be advising Jove.
Yeah.
Would you not have to be a character then as well? Who is advising Jove?
Maybe his dad.
AI?
I don't know. That's something you'd have to leave to Steph. But we'd have to say, look, you know what? Can't solve this UI problem, so we've got to do this.
It could in turn make it more interesting, depending.
Yeah, I think so. I think it ties into the believability, and it opens doors to all sorts of possibilities with the UI. So it makes the UI job a bit harder. No pressure, Cal.
That's fine.
Knock up a quick drawing.
So why are you telling Jove to do these things? Why are you not on the station?
Well, that's something we just have to leave to Steph.
Right. Okay.
It would have to be something we put in her ball plate. Well, so some concepts are: you're advising a player from a terminal. Other concepts, you are you have a neural net. In fact, you know what? You are blind and deaf, and are using
some sort of neural interface.
Yeah, we'll just call it a neural interface. Yeah, that could work. At the moment, though, Jove's like a hero. Everyone thinks he's like God's gift because he was the first baby born off planet. So he's like a legend.
I thought Jove was. Sorry, I thought. My bad. I thought Jove was an AI thing.
Yeah,
Jove was a player.
Jove's a 15-year-old kid whose dad gets killed at the beginning of the tutorial, and then he wakes up and goes, "Wait, that's my daddy's voice." That actually, being blind and deaf, the neural interface now acts as a PDA as well. So that could introduce all sorts of things. Maybe you can use it maybe you can hack things through your head. You just walk up to them
that's
and
interesting.
connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what you could maybe have is,
So we're going cyberpunk
if-
now, guys.
if the main character was blind, say, maybe he in the future they have devices that are for blind people, so he can walk into a room and say, "Hey, device, what's in this room?" and it'll say to him.
Okay,
"There's
yeah,
a
so he's not
coffee
deaf.
shop and a plant."
He's just blind.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's deaf, then it goes straight into his brain. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but
I think-
it's the whole audio system means that you're going to hear all the narration and stuff, right? So blind is the way to go.
Yeah, if he's
what's up?
deaf, then I'm out.
Oh, 2 secs. Doggy wants to be let out. Hold on a sec, guys.
I don't know. I'm of the what's the term? Devil's advocate mindset, where I just want to ask these questions in order to get a clearer idea.
Yeah. No, I
of,
love it, Callum.
Of what the UI needs to be.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. I like the cyberpunk angle, guys. I think we could go strong with that because it is the future after all.
I think if you're in space, it's kind of
a given,
the done thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we really started to think about how we could play on Earth time versus actually it's Jupiter time. 1 minute equals 24 minutes Earth time and Jupiter time. The day-night cycle, and how that might impact characters having schedules and moving around the time of day. These are all things that kind of Steph was saying she'd like to push through the narrative. We have time-based events.
If there was, like, maybe I'm just sprouting off a narrative idea, but say you're sent to investigate from Earth to Europa, and you have to correspond with people on Earth. But obviously, you've got to be mindful of the time in Europa and the time in Earth, which just utilizes those two time zones.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so one of the things that Steph was telling me is that on the International Space Station, the astronauts all have different schedules because they're communicating with their headquarters in Russia, Japan,
of course, yeah.
America, and so on. So they all sleep and work at different times, so they can coordinate with people on the ground. So it would be maybe a similar thing here if it's an international facility.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
I kind of thought of everyone going to bed at a certain time, and then you've just got you're skulking around in the dark. So I suppose it all just depends on the gameplay itself. So, so you can have time-based events. So, like from a really basic, something happens every morning, like a little ding dong, and everyone says a little announcement says "get to work," or to like a meteor landing. After 4 hours of playing the game, this thing happens, and everyone dies, and suddenly you're like, or they're starting to get infected, and one by one over a certain amount of time, we can have, based on where the characters are connecting with each other, we can have them infect each other, and there's all sorts of things we could play with.
See, that's a perfect example of the type of thing that I would need to sort of know in order to formulate a UI.
Yeah. Oh, totally, yeah.
Because
it's quite an important thing.
You need to know like why characters not allowed in here, or why they can't be present on the scene, and why they need to be guiding people.
And we've actually got we've got a little bit more sort of free scope here, because at the moment the story really goes up to the point of you're kind of uncovering this layer about your dad. Spoiler alert. So when your dad was like fucked off the planet, he ended up in deep space and managed to secure a message on a meteor that was going to pass back through Earth. It hits Europa. The message thing that's getting transmitted was on this meteor, which hits at some point during a time-based event, and that's why he suddenly starts getting this little message in his head now, not on his PDA, right? It's coming through his neural net or something.
Yeah. His braces are picking up the radio waves.
But so there's still exactly. I love that. That's what you should just change it to that. It'd be fun. So there's little things like characters have schedules and move about. Characters may say things automatically under certain conditions. For example, someone might be staring at you, and it'll just say, "So and so staring at me." There might be people pursuing you. I want like a reasonable level of AI in the game. Like I don't want it to just be like really scripted. We had characters can contact you on the PDA system, so that's like forced dialogue. Got to have the news have the TV, have him be able to turn off the TV after the news plays because he's fed up of it. Just little things that actually require code and a system for doing that can be utilized later on when you're programming it. Just to give you an idea of how this works at the moment. So we have over here locations. So you can build up your level by creating locations, right? You see this?
Yeah.
So our living area.
It's a little bit blurry on your share, but
so the living area here has a location name, some introductory audio, some background audio, and in the living area we can see we've got exits. So we've got the study, the balcony, and the lift, and each of those has an exit audio and an arrival audio and a target location. Where's it going to take you? Right. And you've got objects, so you can define all the objects in an area, what you can interact with. So if I wanted to say, you know what, with the TV, I want to be able to smash it, I want to be able to kick it, I want to be able to take it apart, and I want to be able to, oh God, can you think of anything else? Roll it, throw it, right? And then that's pretty much it. We've now created all these verbs for our TV screen, right?
I think I left the heating on.
It's it's completely versatile in that, and you can't really get that you generally don't get that in your normal sort of point and click adventure games. And based on all those actions, we can then go into so we've got an actual game script, and we can just completely code and customize every single thing, every interaction with an object, every conversation, every moving through an exit, interacting with a character. We could do anything we like at that point. So, which is really interesting because you're not restricted to just doing something in 3D or doing something in a 2D game or a point and click and sort of verbs and shit. It is actually it's more flexible.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to I'm hoping Steph's going to take advantage of that. So in terms of user interface, that's a given. The big gap we've got at the moment is what I'd really like to have is some sort of RPG style gaming to it. So I'd like to have some sort of class system that you define at the beginning. Like, have you played... what's that game that Laurie has been playing? Big fighty one.
Blade?
Yes. Right, so where you define your character at the beginning?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite, what's the word? Natural. Something like that, where you define who Jove is and what his skills are and so on. So we can have this sort of narrative-driven game, but we could have elements of, skill.
You could do like a
stats.
Fallout thing, where you assign those stats, and then depending on how high your intelligence is, you might not be able to hack a door that you would be able to if you had high intelligence or something. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm kind of set up quite well for that. I just need to decide on what sort of direction I'm going to take with it.
Right. Okay.
It's like unlimited possibilities in that respect. But I've got a few favorites that I'd like to take inspiration from. But yeah, so if we were to say then that it was like that sort of game, it doesn't have to just be limited to key locations. We could have, like I've said here, we can have a forest, for example. You can have different types of area within that forest, and your purpose is to kind You could like randomly generate that forest, for example, every time, and you've got to kind of work your way out of it. But you get encounters in there. I don't know, a bit Zelda-y, really, or a bit maybe Diablo 2 sort of style, where we have some sort of dynamic generated maps. And even if we do have this sort of overhead system, which kind of shows you a basic idea of where you are, or I don't know what it would be if it's like a PDA system in your head or a neural interface. I don't know. I kind of like this. This is cool.
I've thought maybe if, again, going for the whole blind thing as an excuse for a minimal UI, you could have some kind of implant maybe that gives him a very basic futuristic-y sort of look of his environment. So it could just be some vector lines and arrows with words pointing at things, just saying this is what you're looking at.
Yeah. I can't remember the game that did that. There was a game that uses sound that bounces back to the player.
I know the one you mean.
Shows it in. Yeah.
But that's actually a 3D engine.
Yeah.
So they're modeling the whole thing.
Yeah.
A bit much, but yeah.
Sean, were you saying like you have sort of a static representation of the?
Yeah, really static and basic sort of thing. I'm making a very, very basic mock-up just now.
Oh, nice.
On paint.net. So
Paint.net.
My word.
Paint.net
is great.
Is it just Paint? Is it just Microsoft Paint, but online?
With a lot more stuff.
Cool.
Yeah. Learn something every day. Well, we're waiting for that.
As an idea, very quick thing. And that could also be used in the narrative, like, rather than him hearing his dad's voice in his head or whatever, maybe he can just see the message from his dad in his own implant, and he's the only one with the implant, and he's the only one that can see this message popping up on it.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. So
that's interesting. Okay. One thing I was thinking is that you can get, I don't know, maybe say there's a holodeck or something on the station or wherever you find yourself, and you could get, I don't know, codes from your implant that no one else can hear or something, and you just plug that in, and it generates a new environment in which, I don't know, it's captured some situation or recorded or something, and you can like go back and be in that situation in real time.
Be nice, some audio potential there, definitely.
Yeah.
I think the implants angle is pretty cool because basically you could do all sorts of things.
It does open up the door to quite a lot, yeah. Like narrative wise.
Yeah, but also gameplay wise.
Oh yeah.
Just as an excuse to have a basic UI like vector lines and stuff like that. It's kind of a way to.
What's that cyberpunk RPG game called? It's just called Cyberpunk, right?
2077.
Is it 27? Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Right, let me just see the implant list. There's a huge list, right?
He's just looking as well. He's just looking for like
just to get just some ideas of.
Okay.
Oh my! Is that for me? Oh wow! Thank you. Oh my god! Look at this. I got like water and coffee and Oreos, which I won't be able to eat on screen, or I'll be crunching away and crumbing all over the place.
Oh, lovely.
Well, this isn't very good. Guides, gamepressure.com.
Right,
here we go. Cyberpunk Wiki. There we go. We have like 1 billion.
There we go. There's our first image right there.
Oh, where is it?
Environment.
Look at this.
And that could be really stylized as well. You could have like
here we go.
You could imagine it was built up on one of those old retro futuristic CRT monitors from Alien or something.
Yeah, I love that, Sean. And that's awesome. That is a cool way of doing it. I don't think you even need the lines, but you could have them. It just some sort of abstract
It
things
makes it
around the
feel
place.
more like you're in a sort of cyberspace. Have you ever played?
Yeah. That's cool. That's a great
What's it
idea,
called
mate.
again? Under a Steel Sky? Is it
Yeah,
Beneath
yeah.
a Steel Sky?
My
You know,
God.
when you go into the sort of cyber space area, there's like an online bit you go into. There's a few games that do that. There's a whole bunch of them that do stuff like that. But
Yeah, well, I think that's actually a really cool idea. What do you think, Callum? Because
Yeah,
now
I mean,
what you're talking about in terms of user interface is super procedural, right? So we could either say like the TV. I don't think you should even point to objects. I think you should just like literally leave it.
just have the word
what do you mean,
TV. Where
Like little
TV would.
circles or something that just indicate areas in space, and then lots of kind of
Yeah,
like
that would
fuzz
be-
around. And then
You
you
could
click
do
on the
like-
TV and you get your verbs, how you interact with them just by clicking on those objects.
Yeah.
That's genius. I love it.
That way you're actually interacting with the environment, not.
Yeah. So it feels like you are,
Yeah.
without the assets. That's pretty cool. That's a great idea. I kind of like
And then
that.
it could be quite a jarring and spooky thing where you see your dad's message and it's maybe a lot more detailed or in a completely sort of weird font, stuff like that.
Yeah, like garbled
like a
or
really
something.
sort of like weird stylish thing that you'd never seen before, and it would just kind of freak you out. That could be quite effective.
There's a Robocop HUD. Just bringing it up to see. Yeah. Oh, it's a Robocop HUD cop concept UI.
Do they have like?
But this, so you could do stuff like this as well, right? So actually, if you're going to have like some sort of fighting in it, that now you can have vitals and heart rate, temperature, respiratory, pulse, liver function, motor function, your condition, and that can all be driven within the game. So you can actually add these sort of elements, especially if it's real time.
See, I like the idea of having the vitals, but still incorporating it into that. Like you've used this example. I don't know which parts of this example you're taking away. I don't know if you're talking about having a more detailed image with vitals over it or something like that. But if all characters were just super simplified and just look really, I don't want to say polygonal, but you know what I mean.
I think I do. I just like, so if we go back to this sort of idea, they're just like stickmen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, not stickmen. You would see, I don't know, maybe some sort of. You would see a representation of them.
Okay. I wonder if there's a good way of like being able to generate something like that without having to use actual 3D. Although I could. I mean, Godot is like a 3D engine.
I personally like the idea of having the 3D engine. I don't know game design, so I don't know how hard it would be to incorporate something like that.
Have a go,
but
by all means. The great thing about Godot, right, is that you can just create a scene, right?
Yeah.
Create a 3D scene. Ta-da! Yeah. We now have a 3D scene, and we can connect stuff to it, so we can add objects to it. So this is like with everything, right? The game has characters and balconies and studies and exits and so on. But with a 3D world, you can do exactly the same thing. We could have objects with properties. So I could have locations and characters and so on in exactly the same way. But now they need represented in this 3D world, and they need to be, they need to have X, Y, and Z, and position and scale and so on. And they need to be presumably animated in some way. So as soon as you introduce 3D, you introduce a phenomenally different skill set because it's very mathematical.
That's very true. It depends on how you do it, though.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
I mean, I don't think you need animations. I think we should. So, right.
I like the thought of like when you change location, things sort of kind of angle in. The lines of vectors all sort of slide into view, and the objects all like blink up, and just kind of like very digital.
I think it'd be really cool if by animation, you don't mean like things are still moving in the room when you right, okay, I'll just explain why I'm thinking. So I'm thinking you go into a room, you enter a room, and
Mhm.
then it takes a snapshot of everything in the room. If there's a person in the room, it takes
Mhm.
a snapshot of where they were. They can walk around the room, but you'll still think they're there,
Mhm.
and you can request a new snapshot.
That's an interesting idea. I like that.
Yeah,
Because the other characters could freak you out by suddenly talking to you from a different direction.
yeah.
I think
Or even
the
like
thing is,
not
it's supposed to
talking,
be
just moving, and then a new snapshot, and it's just like right next to you or something.
I think what I'd like is for because I mean I've gone quite some lengths to make sure that there's like a consistent audio.
Yeah,
So be it from ambience to I want to have it's like kind of like a real time audio. So
Mhm.
I think if someone moved, I think I'd probably want to I'd want them to leave the room. So let's say you've got
Right, okay.
even if let's say we're talking about pixel art here, and we've got a character representation which is like a fuzzy silhouette of a shade and it's kind of distorting a bit. And then that character leaves, I'd just have it sort of like I wouldn't have it like exit stage left, just sort of whoo, but maybe kind of some sort of like dissolving as you hear the sound effect of them exiting the room, or if they're talking to you, it maybe brightens as they're talking. I've actually started developing this user interface spectral. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. Right, so see this.
I woke up.
So we've hooked into
My mouth was dry. I left the heating on.
a spectral analyzer, so we can analyze the audio that comes in as set. So we can actually manipulate any object on the screen based on the narrative. So when a character talks, we can show that. When the TV is playing, we can show that.
Good evening. Welcome.
Show that where the audio is coming from on the screen. That's awesome. I love that. And then if the character exits, then essentially that character is exiting from the screen and from the UI. So
Yeah.
I think we're onto something. I think it's really important though to keep it quite simple at the moment. Do a kind of rough concept of it and see if it works. But so what we're saying then is that the whole interface could be based on exit to study, exit to balcony, enter the lift, TV screen, family photo, magazine, and character. Everything that you see on the screen, whether it's an object or something you can interact with or attack or whatever, can be procedurally drawn onto the screen. Or we could decide, so for we could actually say in our game that in the living area, exit study is here, exit balcony is here. That's really easy because if you want to add something to, let's say like we're adding a new location to this scene, right? So we're going to add a new exit, a new door into the living area. You just drag it onto the screen wherever you want, and it'll be there. And one of the property we just have to basically say to the exit object that the exit object has a location. It has a physical property within the room. At the moment, the exit object is just a node. It's not a 2D node or a 3D node. It doesn't have any physical properties. But I can change all that really easily. So I fucking love it. I think, guys, honestly, that's brilliant.
You know what I'm going to say? Is that still transferable? Those concepts still transferable over to 3D? So say you had, I don't know, just a box that represents a TV.
Yep.
And then you dragged your cursor over that box, you could interact with the TV. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, if I create a 3D scene here, and then I add an object to it, I've never actually done any 3D stuff at all. So you've got animated sprite 3D. So you could have actually animated sprites. So that's 2D sprites in the 3D world, which is quite cool. Saves you having to do loads of 3D work. But we can create pretty sure we can create other stuff in the spatial object. Spatial, we can create cameras, bones, joints, collision objects. Yeah, I don't know enough about it, but I mean, obviously, you could throw in a 3D object there. But I like the very fact that you could actually add in like something, what was it called again? Animated Sprite 3D. Oh, wait. Hold on. Let's just try this real quick. Sprite 3D. It's not animated, but we can just add a texture to it. There we go. Boom. Hey, look at that. It's in the world.
Cool.
So now all we need to do is add a camera into the scene, point at it, and we're basically playing a, I'll just call this test and stick it in the scene folder. I have to play around with the 3D side of things. I've really not done much, but yeah, there's no camera yet, so you literally can't see it.
Yeah.
But in theory, I can't imagine it's going to be that hard to do something simple-ish in the sort of way you're talking. That would be really cool. I think it would be a great challenge. You fancy having a go?
Honestly, yes, I do.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so the beauty of this is Godot's really good for like multi-user stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like you can be working on this scene, and I'm working on a completely different section. As long as you don't step on each other's toes, you could create a whole scene right here, and I could go right. Okay, so you've set everything up; it's all looking good. So then I can go right. Okay, so you've created this 3D sprite here. Well, I can just reference it in my code. I can connect things in. I can add scripts, and I can connect everything up to your scene. So if you look at the user interface, look, the user interface is completely self-contained. It's got a main screen container which has an image in it.
Yeah.
Right, and it's got an interface location with these boxes, but it's got no buttons in. None of my objects exist in this. It's just completely separate to the actual game itself. So the game itself just hooks in and says, "Oh, image overlay. Yeah, I'll fade an image in. Locations. Okay, I'll put some. I've got a function called update GUI that basically plugs in buttons for objects, labels, characters, and options. So for you to go in and just focus on creating a 3D scene, is it going to work? Yay! Look at that, it would. Now I just need to move around. Would be pretty easy.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And you can just start putting stuff together and seeing what happens. And I can show you the basics anyway.
I mean, now we're in dangerous territory where I have sort of an idea of what I think the representation should be.
Okay.
I woke up.
So
okay.
I don't know if
I'll
I
come back
obviously
to you
don't
in
know
2 months, and we'll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, that'd be awesome anyway to look at. So let's do that. Let's have a little session, and we'll have a play with the 3D and see what we can come up with.
Cool.
Yeah, just a little exploratory session. What about the sound stuff, Sean? Are you interested in or any aspects of the project? To be honest,
absolutely, yeah. Just all the sound would be cool. Just
I love your ideas, man. I like the way you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you've got any thoughts about the RPG side of things,
RPG,
yeah, like stats and
a lot of this stuff feels like something that Stephanie, the writer, should be involved in, because
I was going to say
a lot of it sounds like it kind of goes hand in hand with the writing.
I think
especially if
it does.
There's RPG elements where like you need so much intelligence to do something, or
I think
like what's it going to stop
skill,
you from doing, like narratively?
Yeah. There's a mix of. So first of all, right, we're capping this at the moment with tutorial and Act 1, in that we want to flesh out the idea of the whole game first of all in the tutorial and Act 1. So anything is open to change. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Once we've got the idea and the functions there and so on, then we can start working on it, developing it out and fleshing it out. So we could change anything about it. Also, Steph is very much reliant on knowing what the possibilities are. Because Steph will get, like, she's done it before, she'll get carried away, like, trying all sorts of really cool stuff. And I'll be like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Likewise, I could introduce a load of cool stuff and she'll go, oh, great, I'll use that. So cool. we've got, I suppose we've all got to sort of collaborate to come up with the ideas and then do a little bit of feasibility. Is it going to be easy enough to implement? Is it going to take us years? And we just kind of work on that basis. But I'm really keen to try and get the prototype. This should be our milestone, is to get the prototype completed before the lockdown finishes. That's the goal, right?
Okay,
because life will change. People will go on and do their thing, and people's time and availability will change big time. So just setting ourselves a little limitation will give us some scope for what we can achieve in that given time scale.
Yeah.
and hopefully can come up with something fun.
And speaking of timescales,
Mm.
how often are you working on this?
I do 1 to 2 hours a night at the moment. So
Right,
I've done this is the 29th episode, which means
because that's
I've
probably a
done-
lot more than I can commit to just now. But
that's fine. So I've done 43.5 hours approximately, which is,
enough. Okay.
it's not really a lot considering what I've got. But the main thing is that I've been learning. I started off super slow, and now I can put stuff together quite quickly, and it's really a learning exercise. And then project number 2 will be quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's a project number 2, probably will be though. I really love it.
No.
Godot's
It's
so
just
addictive. I'd like to do a 2D game.
Coming from a project point of view, a project-oriented point of view that's always the want. It's always the desire. It's never the reality.
Yeah, totally. That's why I'm learning for the many mistakes I've made in my life, biting off more than I can chew. So, right, guys, we are 10 minutes over our 1 hour. But yeah, we've now got a Discord channel. And should we make the Discord channel public?
We could do and have locked text channels and voice
Yeah,
channels.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be a really good idea to see if there's any feedback or anything that people have.
Can I make you guys like the channel owners?
Moderators.
How do I do that? I'm not a big Discord.
Create rules.
I think you're locked into being an owner because you set up the channel, but you can make us administrators or something. I don't know.
If you've not done it before.
I've not. No, Nicholas is running the chess club, so
right, here we go.
Yeah, that's my little brother's running the chess club.
Roles. So add a role. Okay, so we'll call it senior. No, we'll call it contributor. No, moderator, right?
Yeah.
So
you can also give roles to describe what a role is in the development as well. Because that helps people. If people that are interested join the channel, then they kind of see what everyone's responsible for just from looking at the Discord.
So what do you call them? Contributors.
Well, you can put like dev, or you can even specify.
Cool. All right.
Person. Some channels do that. They'll have sound designer, UI design stuff.
Yeah. So just using the Crowbar Collective as an example, they've got what have they got? They've got art. So people in the art team, they've got coding, they've got lead designers, trailers, working on their website, stuff like that.
That's awesome. I love that. I should start doing that in other rooms. Okay, so audio, art, writing. What else? Anything else at the moment? What do you want? What roles do you want?
I mean, I'm already just being, a contributor.
Right. Okay. Well, there's some pretty colors. Be just
contribute to every aspect.
Right. Well, look, I'll make you a moderator. So that gives you full access to everything.
Nice. Fucking sick.
Mute members, deafen them, move them. Priority speaker sounds fun. What's that? Ban members. Yeah.
What does priority speaker do? I feel like that might.
Oh, you've got to save changes mind.
Right. I'm calling that the ultimate moderator because I would say no. You know what? I'm going to call that admin. There we go.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Save changes. That's technically what it is. Cool. So then, what do? Do I go right click on you guys and roles? Ah, nice. Look at that. Oh, you can be another role as well. What would you like?
Nice.
Who's that? What would you like, Callum?
You just chuck me on art.
Art and Sean.
Audio, I guess.
All right. Cool.
This is admin for me.
Well,
when I
that's
look
fine.
at it.
I think we need like designer as well or something.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Honestly, so you're thinking doing something like that in a 3D world, right?
Yes. I'd be interested to see if. Sorry, my girlfriend's annoying me. She's deliberately annoying me as well.
Turn the whole thing into wireframe, right?
Like yes, exactly. Yeah. So if you've got some sort of retro fusion. Sorry, what was that?
Who, me?
Yeah. I ignored you. I interrupted you there.
I'm just saying, like, I think, I'm totally in.
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's how I imagine it anyway. Some sort of like asteroids, but
Vector.
yeah.
Yeah, you can enable wireframe mode by clicking on the perspective text in its top left corner. So, perspective. Oh, there you go. Wireframe. There we go. We're now in wireframe mode. I don't know if that'll make it any difference when you're looking at the. Did we do a scene? Oh, we did a scene, didn't we? Where is it? Test.
You chucked in a sprite, but
There it is. So if I go test, turn that into wireframe mode, and then re-render it. I wonder if we'll have a flaw. We still have a flaw in the sunshine. I'm not quite sure how that would work, but I see what you're saying. You want the whole thing to be like you want a flaw in wireframe, right?
yeah. So I mean, you don't. I would maybe argue against the grid. I don't know. You can have the grid. I suppose it's a stylistic choice, isn't it? But
yeah,
as long as as long as you still have a sense of perspective.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Then
I suppose you could just ditch the flaw and the skybox and render a wireframe
when you're
object.
Sorry, you know when you're playing VR and you come near this edge of your play area, and the game will have a way to represent that for you.
Yeah.
You could maybe have that in this game where you don't see the wall until you get close, and it's like.
But I'm wanting to stay clear of moving about in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So you go into the room and you take a snapshot or whatever.
Well, you could have we could have a little bit of like where your mouse is on the screen. If you move it to the left, we just have a little bit of shift. You move it to the right, a little bit of shift, so it just feels like you can at least see and acknowledge the 3D there. Yeah.
See, that was one thing I was thinking. How can we utilize the space in 3D? Because I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to make it like first person where your mouse is just the camera and you can look about the room. I quite like the idea of having some sort of fixed view, and maybe you can turn the player around at some point and then do another rescan of a different perspective of the room. I don't know. That remains to be seen. But yeah, I like where this is going.
There's loads of like demos and stuff. I was just looking at some of the install projects, demos. Have a quick look at this. See what we get. Demos. Quick folder install. What is this? This is user interface in 3D.
Okay.
Oh, right. Cool. Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we could have like, you could basically have like key controls for things in the UI. Anyway, but it's not really making use of the 3D though,
yeah, I don't know if I'd want to utilize something like that.
Yeah.
I quite like just having it more simplified.
Look at that. That's actually sprites in the 3D world. It's a viewport to a 2D world from the 3D world.
Yeah.
It's really simple. Pretty cool.
And you could have a very basic that you go up to computer terminal, it just looks like DOS or something.
Mate, honestly, I love that shit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love anything like that. Honestly, every time I connect to a server through SSH, I get giddy still.
But like from a narrative standpoint, how would a blind person be able to?
They're connecting through their neural interface, man.
So they would actually
whatever is interpreting it for them.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Because I was thinking. Okay. Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I like this. It's really good. I'm gonna have to tell Steph, sorry, but you're gonna have to change your premise. Hopefully she's watching right now. I don't have to tell her. She's swearing.
It's not necessarily a premise change, but it's going to change probably a lot.
Yeah, well, I think this is a good premise. So, right, it's 20 past 10.
I hope she doesn't have him look out into the stars and marvel at the beauty.
She does. She does at some point. Now she's going to have to do it in a different way.
Oh, no.
He looked at all the white dots that resembled stars in his implants and see what it really looks like.
That's all right. I think that's
interesting.
Absorbing the light from... Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, let's do something with it. But
maybe you could just have the computer describe what it looks like.
Yeah, like it's super poetically, but in a robot voice.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
Oh dear. Right, cool. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a night. But
Cool.
thank you so much for joining me. That's awesome. I feel like we've made some
Yeah, this was a lot of
massive
fun.
headway. So
I think so. Yeah.
So it's 9 p.m. every night. So feel free to join me anytime and just constantly. But however you want to do it, we can work together on a 9 p.m. shift now and again. Just do an hour in the evenings.
Yeah.
And work together on it. And just like literally, you just start at 9 o'clock. We do an hour of work, and then we to do whatever the hell else we want to do. But that's the way I've been approaching it. It's just like, don't let it take over your life. Just do a little bit and just make progress every day. You don't have to like reinvent the wheel and build the Sistine Chapel, whatever. Anyway, right, let's call it. So cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone that's watched. And sorry you didn't have any sort of chat interface. I haven't added it yet, and I will soon. So probably have it on tomorrow. Right. Cheers, guys.
Great.
Take it easy.
End of the stream.